I see that you went to University of San Francisco. I know you're from San Francisco. Was there any other college you were looking at back at that time, or was it basically I'm going to San Francisco since I'm from San Francisco?
No, there were other colleges and everything, but I was married at the time, and they would give me an allowance to live off campus. So I had a housing allowance. So plus it was home and everything else. And I was just raising the family. I had one child at the time, and then so my wife was pregnant and everything. So it was just one of those family things.
Was it common for players to get housing allowances back then?
I really don't know. I have no idea. I never even thought about it. No, it was just a housing allowance instead of living on. See, otherwise I could live on the on the campus there. They had the old barracks, and a lot of the guys would live there. From out of the area, or they weren't married and so forth. But I would get the equivalent of what that would, the value of that. So it wasn't very much. It was just, something anyway.
So it wasn't right there on the ocean with a nice ocean view and you could walk out to the beach.
Wrong.
You had some great players on that San Francisco team. You, Ollie Matson, Gino Marchetti, and Dick Stanfield. I mean, did you realize how talented that team was?
No, not at the time. Well, we thought we were pretty good once we started winning, beating these other teams. We had a lot of confidence in ourselves. We had a great coach, Joe Kuharich, who later coached for the Redskins. The kid coached at Notre Dame. He coached to the, for the Redskins, excuse me. And we thought, and there's three of us that are in the Hall of Fame, football-wise. Gino, like you mentioned, Gino, myself, and Ollie Matson. But there's a fourth in the Hall of Fame that was one from our same class. He was our publicist. He didn't go in as a football player, but he went in as one of the team members. That was Pete Rozelle.
Did you realize when you were there how great of a football mind Pete Rozelle had?
I had no idea, no. He was just, one of the classmates.
He was probably one of the top publicists of all time there because he took the National Football League and it basically exploded under his leadership.
Oh, sure. No question about it. Oh, yeah. He was great. He was, but I had no idea at that time. He was just a classmate.
Those had to be some practices with you on one side of the ball and then you had Gino Marchetti on the other. Did you guys match up against each other?
Yeah, very seldom they would do that. We had the blood pit, as Kuharich would call it, two cement posts that were wrapped in canvas and cushioned, and enough for just one person to get through. And we get a 3-point stance on each side, and he'd hike the ball, and you just battled your way through their hands, and then it was almost like a fist fight. But no, Gino and I didn't do that much there, thank God.
How good of a player was Ollie Matson?
How good a player who?
Was Ollie Matson.
Oh, outstanding. The interesting thing is he was such an offensive, threat. But he made All-American his last year there in 1951. He was an All-American on defense. Because he played both offense and defense. We all did in those days. But he made it on defense. Isn't that something?
Yeah, I mean, it was. Because basically, you had to know both sides of the ball, being that you were playing both sides.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
Where did you play in defense?
I was a defensive end.
And did Gino go both ways also?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Gino went both ways, sure.
And then you had another player who I think should be in the Hall of Fame, Dick Stanfield, on those teams.
Oh, yeah. A great player. Offensive guard for the Detroit Lions. Oh, yeah. He was a great blocker. He was really good.
what I don't get is, I know he was up for the Hall of Fame last year with the Veterans Committee, and it seems like when the veterans nominate you, you tend to get in. I don't get how he's been nominated twice by the veterans and not gotten in.
That's the problem, yeah. That's the problem. We've been yelling, and we in the Hall of Fame, I've been in it for 20 years, we in the Hall of Fame have just been screaming about that. He had a special committee to go out, and we call it the senior committee, and to pick the guys back in the days when I played in the 50s and so forth. And once that committee comes up with a recommendation, you would think that it would be automatically stamped and sent through, but this has not been the case. And I just don't get it.
Him and Jerry Kramer make no sense. They were two of the premier linemen of their times, and like you said, the senior committee puts them on the ballot, and they should be rubber stamped. And those guys twice have been on it and haven't gotten in.
Yeah, I know it. Jerry's another one. Yeah, I remember. I had to play against Jerry. I know how good he was. Well, Gino gave me fits. He gave everybody fits. Gino Marchetti. Whoa.
Oh, at that time, go ahead.
But we had a block. We couldn't, put our hands out to our sides and block. We had to, have our fists against our chest and block like that. We couldn't use our hands, so it was really tough to get these quick guys, quick, strong, fast guys.
Then you had another player on that team who went on to become an NFL referee in Tovar.
Burl Toller. When Pete Rozelle became the commissioner, the first thing he did, one of his first things, he made Burl Toller the first black NFL referee.
Did he get a lot of criticism when he did that?
No, not at all. Well, I don't know that. He could have. I have no idea. I don't think he did. I remember going out in the field, like in Cleveland or New York when we were playing back there, and I'd come up behind and Burl, and hug him, and he turned and looked at me the first couple of times. No, you can't do that. You can't do that.
When he called the holding penalty on it, did you ever say, "What are you doing? You're my buddy"?
Yeah. Oh, I know it. Yeah.
How good was it? How good was that 51 team?
I think man for man, we could have beat anybody. I really do. We were, we never really had a chance.
And why was that?
Well, the point is, we never had a chance no one would play us. The year before, we had played Stanford and Cal, and they had beaten us. We almost beat Cal that year. They went to the Rose Bowl in 1950, and so in 1951 we thought we'd be able to play them again. No way, they didn't want any part of us.
And was part of the reason because you had black players on your team?
No, it had nothing to do with that. Not here on the coast.
Oh, okay.
Nothing. That was just that they felt that we were that good, and they were supposed to. It's a no-win situation for them. They were supposed to beat us, and if they lost, it'd be really a black eye to them.
Frank Gifford didn't want to look bad, so he basically probably told USC, "Let's not play him."
That's right. Anyway, well, they're making a movie, out of our team.
And who's going to be in the movie?
Well, Gino and I are going to be in it, and I know that. I'm not sure who else.
Mike and me, we'll be at the bar.
So, that was my buddy here.
Oh, okay. Are you going to... So, did you film your part yet, or you're going to be
No,
in it?
It'll be at the end of May. They're bringing me back to Utah. That's where they're doing a lot of filming. I filmed certain little aspects of it in San Francisco at Kezar Stadium, where they named the stadium after me there. And I did that already.
So what did they film? What did they film at the stadium?
Oh, just the old locker room and that kind of stuff. Just nostalgic stuff. in the days when I played there. I played 189 games there.
How did it feel when you got that stadium named after you?
Really an honor. I mean, usually you have to be dead before they name anything after you. I had to look in the mirror the next morning and say, geez, do I look that bad?
How did they end up picking Utah to film that movie? I mean, you got San Francisco.
It's a matter of finances. They evidently, the state of Utah is very, very, reasonable as far as dealing with these movie studios. They really do go out of their way to give them a break.
That 51 team, you never got a chance to play for the national championship. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. What happened was, well, it wouldn't play a national championship. I think it was we were going to play Georgia Tech in the Orange Bowl, but when we got the invitation, the coach said, "Well, what do you guys want to do?" We said, "We'll have a meeting," and then said, "We don't even have to have a meeting, Coach. We're not going to go for this. This is crazy. We're not doing this. Our two players. We don't care what color they were. What the hell? That was a slap in our face. What are you talking about?" They obviously they wanted us to lose. We thought.
So they don't want Ali Madsen to play or Tovar.
Or Toller, Burl Toller, yeah.
And who made that decision? Was that the NCAA or was that the?
No. Evidently, the bowl committee, and this was very prevalent in those days. That kind of attitude. It was, in fact, they were told. I think one of our officials was told that this is very common in the South, that all the bowls, don't accept black players.
Which doesn't make sense because you had Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier 4 years earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was baseball. I guess I don't know.
When you got drafted by the 49ers, what was that like?
Well, went to Tulsa University. That was my last year because they were that was the only league that would recognize a transferee. Because USF had dropped football because they couldn't afford to, field the team anymore after we refused to play in the game. But anyway, because that would have been enough funding to last us for a few years. But what happened was now I went back to Tulsa University. They recognized me as a transferee without having to sit out a year. So this is what I was interested in. I played the year back there. And then when I was finished, when I was drafted by the 49ers, I received a call from the owner, Tony Morabito, and he says, "Bob, boy, we are so happy to have you, a local kid like you, playing U.S. Polytechnic High School, University of San Francisco, and now with the 49ers, he says, you're a perfect fit here." He said, "We're going to give you a little more money than we do the average rookie. We're going to give you $5,000. Excuse me, $5,500. It was $5,500. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Barbino, I can't accept that." The only reason I said that is that the guard next to me had just signed a contract with Green Bay for $6,000, so I thought that was the figure. And I didn't want to look like a piker, so he hangs up the phone. He says, "God damn it," he hangs up the phone. And I had to wait a week back in Tulsa there. Finally, I get the phone call, and he says, "Listen, St. Clair, you better be as good as you think you are. We're going to give you the extra $500."
Your wife was probably ready to kill you when she heard you did that.
Oh, she wanted to come home. Oh, of course, yeah.
With San Francisco, who made the decision not to play, the university or did you, the players?
Oh, well, we did. We said we weren't going to play, period.
How was
None of the guys would.
How was the coach with that decision in the administration?
Oh, yeah, fine. No way. I mean, we're not going to play. It's just crazy. So, like I said, it was an insult. So we all stood the band of brothers stood together.
Well, I eat raw meat still. Even today I eat raw meat. I don't cook red meat at all. And in fact, I'll go into a restaurant and order a rare chicken, and they'll look at me. and have me sign a release. I did, ever since I was a little kid, I can remember my grandmother in San Francisco, the chopping block in the kitchen. She would be chopping up meat, and the dog and I would be looking up at the block and waiting for her to throw a piece of meat, either give me a piece or give the dog a piece. And I'd always be fighting that damn dog, trying to get as much as I could away from him. And I just acquired a real taste for raw meat. The thing is that, my favorite naturally is liver. I like raw liver. I still like it, and today, and you can't get it in a restaurant, but I'll buy it, at the store and the butcher shop and so forth. And every once in a while, I really enjoy that. And I can remember when I first, when the rookies first came in the camp when I was playing. And I was the captain of the team. On Thursday night, we would have liver. So at the training camp, and I would get my raw liver, and I'd put a napkin over it, and I'd walk over to where most of the rookies sit by themselves, usually in training camp, and I'd go over and sit with them, and I could see the expressions on their faces. They'd be looking at me and say, "What the hell is the captain sitting with us for? Gee, many crickets." And then I'd take the napkin off, and there'd be blood all over the plate and everything, and I'd start chewing on the liver. And most people don't understand the raw liver. It's almost like, tastes like an apple. It sounds like an apple. It crunches. And I'd exaggerate it naturally, and a little blood, drip down my chin. And all of these guys would get the hell away. They would get up and say, I think I'm not as hungry as I thought I was, and they'd be leaving the room and everything else. So there was a movie that came out that one of those years when I was doing that, and it was with Tyrone Power, and he was called the Geek because he was an alcoholic, and they would put him in the big tent at Ringler Brothers and in a cage, and they would throw him a live chicken, and he would rip it apart, and blood and feathers would be going all different directions. And this is where I got my nickname. The guy said, "The Geek, that's it," and it stuck. Well, let me tell you a story. Yeah. I thought I died and going to heaven coming back from, my last year was at Tulsa, and I was drafted by the 49ers, and I came back to my hometown. I had gone to high school in San Francisco. I played at the University of San Francisco. I played, and then with the 49ers. And then the day I came into training camp there, why Tittle, I was assigned as my roommate. I said, man, it just doesn't get any better. Until after a couple of nights in the room with him, so you're sleeping at night, he's an asthmatic, and he wheezes at night. And no one wanted to sleep. No one wanted to be his roommate because they couldn't sleep very well. And I had to come up with a plan because the training team said to me, "Bob, he's your little, sleeping. Come on, you got to get it. We want you to make the team and everything." I said, okay. So the next night, the coach, Buck Shore, he came down and he was talking with Y about the practice the next day and so forth. And he says, "Okay, practice tomorrow at 8 o'clock. And as he was leaving the room, he says, "I'll turn out the light." I said, "No, Coach, let me." And we had beds on the opposite side of the room, and there was a little sink. And I got up and I went over and I played like I was getting a drink of water. I said, "I'm going to try to get a drink of water." And I, faked it. And then I turned out the light and I turned the corner there and I went to YA's bed and I reached under the covers and I kissed him on his bald head and patted him on his ass and whispered in his ear, "Good night, Y." He never slept a wink all night. He told the whole team I was gay. He said, "I'm not going to stay with that guy."
Are you a sushi fan?
Oh, yeah, sure. I love raw fish. Oh, yeah. Sashimi. Not so much the sushi, but sashimi. I was in a slug contest one time, slug eating contest. And what they did, they had this charity event where they would make slug the chowder and slug pizza, and then they had slug. Everybody was eating those, and bearing with it. But when it came to the raw slug, the sushi, no one would eat it, and I ate it.